Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of At the Movies with William Fletcher. As per usual, I am your host, William Fletcher, and I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Harry Jobson,
The one and only.
And Barney Metcalf has flaked on us again. He can't do it, and it's a shame because he's going to be very positive. I feel like, or at least about some of this, and so. This is part 2 of our Christopher Nolan filmography retrospective. I apologize that the last episode was a couple days late. I was sick, and thus I just didn't have the energy to edit. You know, as it is. This week we're talking about The Prestige, The Dark Knight, Inception, and The Dark Knight Rises. Now I've seen this film before. Have you seen it before?
I'd never watched it in my life. I finished it 10 minutes ago. I finished it 10 minutes ago.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. So I just want to did you know anything? Because this is interesting because this is what the show used to be. Like, my whole idea for this show was get people and have them watch films they've never seen before and cover it for the show. And I've kind of stopped doing that. But since you've never seen The Prestige, did you have any preconceived? Did you have any preconceived ideas of what it was? Did you know the twist? Is the real question.
No. I knew. This is what I knew going into it when I briefly spoke about it with one of my other friends who studies film down in Sydney. I told him that I have to watch The Prestige and I never watched it, and he said he tried not to give it away, but he told me that it was going to be. Basically, he said it's about the obsession of being remembered and the obsession of one-upping each other, basically. And I was like, that's all he told me. And I was like, okay, that sounds pretty basic.
Pretty much, yeah. But he didn't tell you it was about magicians or anything.
No, he was quite cryptic. No, he did tell me. I knew it was about magicians because when I hopped on to watch it, it said magicians, and I was like, oh, okay, well.
Yeah.
And Michael Caine's in it, so there's he was in the Now You See Me films, so of course it's going to be about mentioning.
They're doing a third one of those, so we might have to cover them at some point.
I'm actually keen. I love it. I actually quite like the Now You See Me films.
I've never seen them, so I think it would be, and I don't think Barney's seen them either, and I think it'd be an interesting perspective.
Imagine.
So I've heard of them, but I've never seen them.
Yeah, they're not amazing. They feel quite like cheap magic, but it's still good.
Yeah. So yeah, The Prestige. I watched this a couple years ago for the first time. I was aware there was a twist. I did not know what the twist was. And so I knew there was a twist. I did not know the twist beforehand. But I was sort of like, what is... I was sort of trying to... I remember, what is the twist going to be? And there's sort of a couple different twists to it, really. The main one being that Christian Bale has a twin.
Which there was a body double.
Yeah. I really, really I love The Prestige. I think The Prestige is a fantastic film. I think The Prestige is wonderful. Based on how you were talking about it just before we started, you're also a very big fan of it?
I loved it. Yeah, I thought it was quite good. As we delve deeper into Nolan's catalog, he is what would you say, au revoir of his body of work,
something, yeah,
oeuvre. I don't know.
Something.
Yeah, his oeuvre of work. I understand the criticisms that some of the female characters in the films are quite underdeveloped.
Yes.
That being said, they're not the protagonist, or the antagonist.
I think most of his characters, we sort of touched on this last week, where I think sort of beyond the protagonist, and even sometimes including the protagonist, his characters aren't that great, but I don't think it matters.
But they fill the role. My thoughts on it from a narrative perspective, I quite liked it. Although, and this isn't me again trying to sound like big brained, I saw the twist coming. I knew, like, I think you can tell almost from the beginning that what was his character? It's been 10 minutes. All I'm thinking about is like I can't even think of the character. Hugh Jackman's character
Robert
didn't die.
Angier.
You can almost tell from the beginning that he doesn't die there. Like,
Mm.
I always in the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, so he's going to show up at the prison. I didn't
Mm.
see, like, because you left in your mind thinking the whole time, like, how does Christian Bale's character do that? If he doesn't use a body double, because we're constantly being fed the idea that there is no
Well,
body
I
double.
think I like the way that we're not shown it.
Yeah,
Like, it cuts away. Because I think if we're shown, I think if we were shown what it was, I think that would sort of change a perspective on it. Like, we'd be like, like,
well,
but I think,
they explain that a lot within the film. Something this film does
yeah.
a lot is sort of explain itself, but be like, it's magic. Where Christian Bale's character says, "If I show you the trick, they won't admire you anymore. The They don't want to know the secret. Like, the secret isn't what makes it great.
Mhm.
It's not. It's the trick that the secret like serves." And it's the same with.
Mhm.
He also mentioned to jump literally to like the final line of the film. He explains the film as a magical act in a three-act structure because like there's three
Yeah.
acts to any magic trick. There's
Yeah.
the what is it when they show you the bird or whatever, the
Yeah.
the magic of it, the wonder, the discovery, the meat of it, and then the prestige, the twist at the end.
Yeah. So yeah, the three sort of parts of a magic trick are the pledge, the
Yeah,
magician shows you something ordinary, the turn, something happens
yeah.
and makes it extraordinary, and then the prestige, which is bringing it back, which is the hardest part. And I mean, yeah, that's kind of what the film, yeah, is the structure of a magic trick, and I think like structurally, the film really works at that. I think the film as a piece of writing is pretty great. Um I think there's a lot like I think this is a film where I mean the twist is easy to figure out like pretty early on, but I feel like
Yeah,
and I guess that depends if that hampers your enjoyment or not.
I
Like
don't
if
think
you're
it did.
willing mm,
I don't think it does either. I think I think it creates like a further appreciation of like the craftsmanship that took to go into like making this film. Although I think from a narrative perspective, in my head canon, like Hugh Jackman's character still wins. He died. Like in my head, he wins. It's like because Christian
right.
Bale's character did die, one of them at least.
Yeah. I mean, we
And
don't.
like
Yeah, we don't know which one, but yeah.
that's a 50% W. That's like that's a pass. You could take it.
I think this film is really dark at times. Like, I love the whole. I mean, for those who haven't seen it, I don't know why you're here, to be honest. But yeah, two magicians are against each other. Because Robert Angie's wife dies. Which I think
Uh,
that's it's like it
I'm led to
works
believe
to
that
get.
Christian Bale's character does kill them as well. But
Yeah, there's just it's about, well, not just about magic. It's more about Robert obsession with figuring out this trick and how it's done, even though it's so very simple. Um, and I mean, I think this is the film that really sold me on Hugh Jackman. Because beforehand, I was like, he's a decent actor, but this was the first time that I was like, oh, he's a really good actor.
yeah,
This is the first time I thought he's a fantastic acting talent.
you didn't watch The
Um,
Greatest Showman?
I have not seen The Greatest Showman. Because I mean, I think Christian Bale is great in it. I think Christian Bale again is a really really great actor. and I think he's really great in this. You
The
got
severe lack
David
of
Bowie in this, which is, I mean,
you do,
I'm a
yeah.
big. I've been listening through David Bowie's catalog of albums, and he's pretty great. Pretty hard to dislike David Bowie as a, and I think he's a nice addition. Even though if he, I mean, no, he does need to be there. Like you do need
Yeah.
David Bowie. It's just an interesting casting choice, I guess.
Yeah. It was just especially this era of Nolan, but for a Nolan film, there
Mm.
was a severe lack of Tom Hardy, Cillian Murphy, or Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Because I
Mm.
noticed the
They're
other
not in
films
this
that
at
we talk
all.
about, the other films we talk about today, they're in the other ones.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Caine's his only real regular actor. I mean, Christian
Michael
Bale
Caine
he'd
has
used already.
been Michael Caine has been in. He wasn't in. Michael
I think
Caine
he's been
is.
in every single one since Batman Begins. I think
Yeah, yeah. Because
um,
I was almost had the goal to say he wasn't in Inception, which he definitely is.
he is in
But yeah,
Inception. Yeah.
forgettable character, but yeah,
Mm. I mean, a lot of Michael Caine's acting work in Nolan films are just small side parts that could be played by
Uh,
anybody, and he just
he
wants to get
kind of
Michael
just
Caine
plays
in there.
Alfred. Yeah, I'm still just trying to think in my head whether I misconstrued it. Did he just
Hmm.
have a lot of body doubles, or was he cloning himself?
He was cloning himself. That was
I
what the
thought
whole thing
exactly that, but like,
was.
surely you just would get the clones to do your bidding then. Like, why would you put yourself in harm's way like that? Like, you have
Well,
an
I
endless supply of clones. No,
um
that's getting too far into the science fiction of it, but
I
yeah,
mean he's
no.
yeah. I mean I sort of think the original Robert Angier dies because of the way the magic trick's done, because he falls into like that vat of water and then he appears from elsewhere. So then the original, because that's what he's doing, is he's dropping all the others into like vats of water where they drown and die, and then there's a clone version of him elsewhere, I think. I mean, that's just that's just sort of how I look at it. I think you could sort of look
Yeah.
at it in a couple
I
different
think
ways,
he
but yeah,
clones
he's
himself
cloned.
beforehand, gets the clone to do it, and then he has two clones. One that, like, one that's just. I don't know. Hold up. Wait. You've got a great point. Did he kill himself the first time he tried it, and then every other time it's just been a clone of him? And he's just cloning a clone?
I think it's not explicitly stated, but I think that's what's implied is that, well,
And
I
I
mean,
get
I
dropping
think
them.
that's what.
I get dropping them into
Cause,
the vat of water. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, you've got to kill them, but
mhm. But I think he
but
dies first. Like all the others are just offshoots of him. I think.
well, I guess in the pursuit
This
of
is sort of how I
legacy,
took it.
then yeah,
Yeah, I mean that's what it is. It's to leave the world. That's why he only does like 100 performances of it or whatever. Like he's just doing it sort of for fame and fortune than anything. Even though that technology could be quite useful, but
I
you
mean,
know
we can
he's
clone
gonna.
sheep. Also, like the whole
um.
Nikola Tesla bit. I was like, yo, science.
Yeah, I think that yeah, it's right. I mean, I just think this film is very well put together on several levels. I mean, there's as a writing, again, as Nolan gets a lot of flack, but I think he is an excellent writer. Well, I mean, I think Jonathan Nolan, his brother, who has written four of his films with him, The Prestige, Dark Knight Rises, and Interstellar, and wrote the short story that Memento is based off of. So I think, yeah, Jonathan Nolan as well is part of that. Who else is even in this film? Scarlett Johansson is in it. I don't
ScarJo,
even
love
really.
ScarJo.
I don't even remember her being in it that much from
Yeah,
my
no, she
memory of it.
plays
She's
the
not.
love interest to Kristen Bale, and also
Yeah,
Hugh Jackman at a point. The kind of mistress character. But I think Scarlett
yeah.
Johansson, out of all Nolan's female characters, besides until we talk about Obsession, Inception, and maybe Batman, um,
Mm,
like Rises, The Dark Knight Rises. But
mm.
like, I think
Interstellar as
ScarJo,
well.
but I think ScarJo in this film, like, does have quite the character compared to
Mm,
compared to some of the other. So like she does play a massive role in the whole like
mm,
trickery and uh bit of it all. I think Scarlett Johansson's a great actor. Like she was really good in w- the film. Oh, fucking so, Jojo Rabbit. I really enjoyed her in, which was
uh,
surprising to me.
mm,
Um, but yeah, like out of Nolan's catalog of discarded female characters who end up killing themselves, which seems to also be a prevalent thing that happens.
mm. These female characters,
Yeah,
yeah, they die
yeah,
by
she was my
the.
favorite so far.
Well, it's not a high bar, but yeah.
No, it's not a high bar.
On a technical level, I think the film is also like with the production design and the costume. I think the visual effects actually, from my memory, they've aged relatively well for
Yeah,
2006 or whatever. And this
yeah.
was made the year after he did Batman Begins. So he did like release the film like two films back to back basically, which is mental. I am always surprised when a director is able to get like a film out every
Two
year. You know.
two back-to-back films with a scraggly Christian Bale and a Michael Caine, who's his like
Mm,
little fucking partner in crime. That's crazy.
mm.
He is
Yeah,
a type.
yeah. I mean, I just, yeah, I think it's an incredible film. I'd probably put it as maybe my second favorite Nolan film,
That's
maybe
high.
third favorite, second or third favorite of Nolan's filmography. I'd have to think about it. It's top three easily. It's just depending on one of the other films we're going to talk about this week. I just gotta say, yeah, I just love it. I think it's a wonderful film.
Yeah. For me, in my head canon, at the moment, I'm holding off on Oppenheimer. I have high hopes because you can't
Mhm.
tease me, Matt Damon, baby. I love Matt Damon. Matt Damon, Cillian Murphy. Are you serious? I'm
I
so
read a thing
excited.
recently that Oppenheimer's gonna have some full frontal nudity with Killian Murphy and Florence Pugh.
Yes,
Apparently,
yes. Let's hope the same for
that's
Barbie.
Ryan Gosling. No, Michael Cera, right? Surely.
Yeah, I can. A man can dream. No,
That's just the thing I read. Yeah, I feel that's just the thing I read recently about Oppenheimer. Yeah, Killian Murphy. I really like Killian Murphy, and we'll get on to that throughout this. And when we talk about Oppenheimer, I really like Killian Murphy. I think he's not in The Prestige, although I think he would fit. I think he would have honestly he probably could have fit as the Christian Bale part. To be honest, I think he would have worked.
yeah, I
I
think
think.
Cillian Murphy would have been quite good as Tesla. Just crazy up his hair a little bit, or comb it back. But
Oh, that could have been good as well. Yeah.
yeah, I found the film top three Nolan so far from what I've
Mm,
seen.
yeah.
It's like Memento's in the three. I don't know like a three list, but Memento's in there. I think Inception
Hmm.
might be.
Hmm.
Um, and then at the moment it's probably this or The Dark Knight.
Okay. I mean,
But
do you have anything else you want to touch on with the Prestige, or?
not quite. It didn't feel as Nolan-y as it should until the twists really started coming in towards the end.
Yeah,
But
it
throughout the
feels
film, I
for
was like, I felt I didn't feel like I was particularly watching anything that was
it didn't really
Nolan.
evoke, yeah, Nolan's like sort of sensibilities and style. Yeah, I think
Um,
that's true. It sort of feels for for quite a bit. It doesn't feel. It feels a bit different to Nolan's other films from my memory. I mean, and there's like it's still great. I love the scene where Christian Bale showing that like bird trick where he
Yeah,
just fucking kills a bird and then gets a new
yeah,
one. Oh, and I like that. Oh, it's gonna make me sound bad. I like that there's just a brutal honesty to it, where it's like, yeah, they're just killing birds for the sake of magic. Like,
yeah.
I think
They
that.
don't use any clever cinematography to hide the real aspects of the film. When you notice that when it's showing the magic, that it tends to cut. When it's showing the
Mm,
illusion, it's purposefully like complex filmmaking. It'll jump cut and it'll
yeah,
be kind of keep a hard eye to follow, which is what
yeah,
makes it easier to make it look like someone disappears, obviously. But when
yeah, yeah.
it works well in the idea that the film is a magic trick, which is said
Hmm.
within the
Yeah.
film, but like it works well with that idea because you have those real moments that what do you call it? What did you say at the beginning? The
The the
bug,
pledge,
the
like,
pledge. Yeah. Um,
yeah.
like for example, the real moment of I believe her name was Sarah, the love interest of Christian Bale, one
Hmm.
of the Christian Bales, like her like her killing herself.
Yeah.
Like it
Hmm.
just holds on that for so long. Like there's
Mm.
no like jump editing to show us like no, it just has her hanging there. Like
Yeah.
there's no, which is like quite confronting, and I think the film does that really well. And I think when a lot of people just choose to, like, don't get me wrong, I'm very much a narrative based like film observer, where it's I
Hmm.
care much more towards the narrative than
Mm.
and also when speaking about the filmmaking, to me it's more important about how it serves that narrative.
Hmm.
But yeah, that I think it works really well together. Um, and I really love the idea behind it. I think there are a few things that I feel like the whole cloning thing brings me out of it a lot. Like I know, but it went
Mm.
from being a film about magicians to just straight up science fiction at the end. Like what the fuck?
That is true. It does take place within a reality for most of it. It doesn't. Yeah, it takes place within the reality of the real world. Like this could all happen for real. It's just a clone. He's got a twin brother, and then it just becomes all about magic, like full on science fiction stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, but
No, I
other
get what
than
you
that,
mean.
like
Yeah.
I quite enjoyed it. I'd probably out of 10,
Mm.
like an 8.5.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I just want to quickly touch on the makeup that they use to
Oh yeah,
disguise Christian Bale is incredible, and they put some because Hugh Jackman's got like a twin version of him, kind of,
a
but
very
he's got
convincing body double. Yeah,
yeah. Well, I think it is just Christian. It is just Hugh Jackman. I think they just
yeah.
put some makeup on him, but it looks very like it's very uncanny valley esque. Like you can like it's obviously Hugh
The
Jackman,
I
but
think yeah, the nose is just like a little longer. It's like they added like a little bit of a
and he's
prosthetic
got some
just
like
to yeah.
wrinkles or something. Yeah, but I think that's great. I give The Prestige a 9 out of 10. I think it's an excellent film, and 2006, by the way, I just want to touch on a very very underrated year for films. Like I think there's a lot of really good films from 2006. Along with The Prestige, you had Pan's Labyrinth, which is a wonderful
Mm.
film. This Is England, which is a great British film. Borat, I love Borat.
I
Can't
have
not
a
love
chair. I
Borat.
have a chair.
Snakes on a Plane is fun. I don't care. Snakes
Please
on a Plane is
stop this motherfucking
motherfucker.
plane.
Oh, and Harry, your favorite Lady in the Water, the M Night
Oh
Shyamalan
yeah,
film.
I loved that film.
Go back and listen to that Shyamalan retrospective where we talked about Lady in the Water.
Here's just a little teaser for you. He makes himself the most important character in the film. Who
ah,
does that?
ah, ah.
Okay. Um, yeah, go listen to it because I get a little bit heated.
And that's not even as heated as Harry gets from my memory of that episode. There's a lot
Yeah.
of other things. But yeah, after The Prestige, we've got The Dark Knight. which I rewatched for the first time in several years. And look, it's a really great film. A tad overrated, though, dare I say.
I argue the same. I
Okay,
plead the
good.
fifth. No,
I think Barney would
I
have agreed with us if he were here. We'll ask him if he's on next week, which he said he will be, hopefully. And if he's not, we'll be very upset with him. Yeah, I initially had it down The Dark Knight as a 10, but that was just based on my memory of however many years ago. It is no longer a 10, but it is still a very good film.
yeah,
Like,
I think
it's a
I
really
think
great movie. Don't get me wrong.
yeah,
But
I think the best thing about these Nolan Batman films is
mm,
that they don't, unless you like. Okay, we'll talk about the villain. Well, everyone knows the. We'll talk about the Joker and like their introduction and the whole role of the antagonist throughout the film. But I feel like
mhm.
other than that, they feel grounded in reality, and that's an attribute to the Bat Bike and fucking Tumblr actually being a functioning thing. The idea
Mm.
that the Tumblr has to self-destruct to turn into the bike instead of it just being nanotech, instead of just explaining it with it's nanotech.
Yeah,
It's
just
nanotech.
MCU style nanotech.
Yeah, like no, this feels like a film that could exist. Um,
Mm.
like
I mean, it's
there are
pretty
obviously
much
bits of
set
it.
within
Yeah,
reality, basically.
like
Like,
give or take the whole like the whole Batman not being able to like people not figuring out who Batman is, like, and also
yeah.
him being overpowered as fuck. Other than that, because and people know my opinion on Batman, because we
Mm.
spoke about it last week, and how I've always had a distaste.
Mm.
Other than the Dark, and I always argue that the Dark Knight trilogy was
Mm.
my second favorite iteration of Batman. I did really like the comic, the cartoon when I was like
Oh,
it
the
used to
the
be on
animated series, yeah.
Saturday mornings. Yeah. Other than the animated
Mm.
series. Other than that,
I think the problem with Batman stories in general is Batman is the most boring part of every single Batman story I've ever
oh
seen.
yeah,
Like, he's always overshadowed by the villains. The villains are always the best part of any Batman film. You had Danny DeVito in the Tim Burton films. You had Jack Nicholson in the Tim Burton films as a villain. You had Arnold Schwarzenegger as a villain one time, like Jim Carrey as a villain. All these,
yeah.
and I just like the only time I've ever really loved like a live action Batman is the recent Robert Pattinson Batman. I think Robert Pattinson is fantastic in the role, and I'm glad he's Batman because he's made him interesting finally.
Mm. You know what I appreciate about these films? The continuity of not again, and this. I'm a big MCU fan. People know this. I quite
Yeah,
enjoy comic book films.
yeah,
Some of my favorite characters reading as a kid, as I did, used to love myself the good comic. That being
yeah.
said, I think that in the MCU, having that post-credit scene of Iron Man, Nick Fury, what? Like to make it a connected universe, always sort of pissed me off. And I really like the idea to keep continuity throughout the film. All you have to do, show a little bit of Cillian Murphy's Scarecrow, just here and there. Like that's all they do. They just like, especially in
Yeah.
like the second and third Batman, like Nolan Batman film, they
Hmm.
just
Yeah.
there's a little bit of Killian. He's still around. Don't
Yeah.
he's still kicking it. Um and that's all you really need. With that, the sort of first and second intros to Heath Ledger's Joker, the
Mm.
best villain intros in in villain hero versus
Hmm.
villain cinema. I mean, if you
Hmm.
can name me, it doesn't have to be like comic book, but if you can name me a
Mm.
better introduction to a villain than Heath Ledger's
Yeah.
Joker in
I
this
mean,
film,
yeah.
I will personally give you all the money that's in my wallet.
Um, yeah. I mean, yeah, we were gonna get to this. Heath Ledger's Joker. I'm gonna say something that might be a bit bold, but I think I stand by this. Heath Ledger's performance as the Joker is the greatest supporting performance in the history of cinema.
No,
Like beyond, no,
no.
you,
I
you
think
you do not agree.
he's one of the great antagonists, but I don't think supporting performance. Don't get me wrong, it's
Okay.
great, but I don't think it's one of the greatest. Although I'll let you finish your point so I can perfectly argue against it.
And I don't think Heath Ledger would have gotten an Oscar nomination and win had he not passed away, to be fair. I do not think he would have been
Mm,
nominated had he not passed away, but he would have been he's fully deserving of that Oscar nomination and that Oscar win, to be fair. I think he's perfectly
yeah.
deserving of both of those. But I do think he would not have been recognized if he didn't die. Which is a bit sad, but I think it's but yeah, I mean he's fucking incredible in this film. He's truly, truly amazing.
Mm, he is. And it is up there too. I think it's up there with some, I think, underrated performances as well. Like, obviously, everyone always talks about how Heath Ledger's Joker, like, and Heath Ledger throughout the film is so great. But I think when you talk about great all-time supporting performances, I think Robin Williams in Good Will Hunting. I think
Mm.
I think Christian Bale in Ford vs Ferrari. If you've never seen that, oh my god, is it a great film? It's got Matt Damon.
Well, I think
I
there's a
think
bias there then
I think
to the Matt Damon.
yeah, but Matt Damon's the leading. Okay. It'd be a bias if Matt
Mm.
Damon was the supporting role. Both films I mentioned, Matt Damon was the lead in as
Both
well, so that's not
his he
great.
yeah.
Um, but I mean, The Martian, no. But I like even I just had it in my oh yeah, Aaron Taylor Johnson in Bullet Train. They're all great they're all great performances. And so is Heath Ledger's Joker, but from a villain, like from coming to the archetype that almost kind of in a really sickening way, like as a viewer, you watch it and you're like, I mean, he makes sense in a really chaotic and not at all way. Like he doesn't he doesn't his end purpose, right, is to like destroy the corruption in Gotham. But he's just like a psychopath, obviously.
Yeah.
And we also see through the acts
Mhm.
of
Yep.
himself where we get to see Harvey Dent, which I quite like as a character in this film. We get to see Rachel
Mhm.
die, which big whoop Christopher Nolan kills another female character as motivation for the two main male characters. Who would have thunk it? But yeah,
Yeah.
he brings this almost. He doesn't look like Heath Ledger, like
No, he
even
does
without the
not.
makeup on. I always thought
He's got
Joseph
this a bit scrubbed.
Gordon-Levitt. You know Joseph Gordon-Levitt? It like because he
Yeah.
looks to
I'm
me a
aware.
lot like Heath Ledger. Like imagine Joseph Gordon-Levitt with long hair grown out. Just they have similar like faces. I feel,
Just because
but
they're both
yeah.
in 10 Things I Hate About You.
Well, no, they're
That
both in
way,
10
yeah.
Things I Hate About You. No, but that's not it. It's they're also both in the Dark Knight films. But
They've got a, there's like half their face
yeah.
together.
See, it's similar.
So it's a bit, now that they're like side by side, I kind of get what you mean.
Yeah, but other
Um,
than that, like that was just like a little side tangent. Even though they are both in these films, it's so like it feels like the Joker exists in a weird way. Even when watching the Joker, the film The Joker, which was so highly revered, I feel like I'm
yeah,
watching Joaquin Phoenix play the Joker. I don't feel like I'm watching the Joker. Like
yeah.
it's and this
No, I
is
get what you mean when
like
you say that. Yeah.
this film shouldn't be called The Dark Knight. It should be called Holy Shit, look at how weird Heath Ledger looks. This does not look like him. This can't be him. The performance is so crazy good. What is going on? Wait, is that actually the Joker come to life? I know it's a long title. It's working. But I feel like that would work. You could market that. Uh but yeah, I don't know. I feel like when I was watching it, I was just that's all I could focus on as well. I was just thinking like,
Mm.
oh, this is so fucking good. Like I didn't really care about the Harvey Dent subplot, which is a good part of the film. The whole
Mm.
Two-Face idea. I do like the idea that he loses it. Like he loses it in a very realistic way. And that's again something that we touched on with the Prestige is that these Nolan
Mhm.
films are quite grounded in Gotham reality, um,
Mhm.
to an extent. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I don't think it's a 10 out of 10. I think Heath
No.
Ledger's performance is a 10 out of 10, but I don't think, and that's
Mhm.
all anyone ever talks about this film anyway. Don't you notice that? Like a lot of people just
Yeah.
you mentioned The Dark Knight, and everyone's like, "Oh, how good was Heath Ledger?" And it's like, okay, tell me how good Christian Bale was. Or wait, he wasn't. Like he was cardboard Batman for this film.
Yeah,
Like I
exactly. It is Heath Ledger. It is Heath Ledger's film.
Heath Ledger is the
Um,
second greatest Joker ever written.
Mark Hamill's the first, right? I
No,
assume.
Lego
Oh,
Joker from the Lego Batman
oh
movie. um, n- yeah,
Jesus
Mark
Christ.
Hamill is the best Joker in my opinion. Because I always
Mhm.
watched this film and I always felt like it felt like the Joker, but not the Joker. It felt like this really gritty, fucking, like, and that's the whole
Yeah.
point. Like his makeup runs and there's imperfections and his
Yeah,
hair's
and his
all
hands
wet
are
and
all
oily and he's
and
just dirty.
white because
He's like homeless
yeah.
Joker.
I think yeah, Heath Ledger, yeah, is incredible in this. And he's far and away the best part of the film. And I think he just every scene with him is captivating. Like every time he's on screen, I am engaged. And when he's not there, I'm less engaged with what he's doing. With the non Heath Ledger stuff, I don't care as much.
Yeah, this is his film.
And I mean, yeah, the opening scene, the opening bank robbery is fantastically put together. It is kind of weird that he just drives out of a bank into a line of school buses and nothing. Like there are certain logical inconsistencies in this film
I
that you
saw that
kind of
as a
have to
point of
ignore.
contention, but like, what do you expect the other school buses to do? Like,
Eh.
realistically, like, what do you do? Like in that situation, like,
Mm.
so I know that never really bugged me, although like I have heard it brought up. I was just like, it's a Batman film, like you like give it a little bit of leeway. Yeah, I feel as if the Joker traditionally has a lot of showmanship, which this Joker doesn't. His showmanship is cheap. He just puts a pencil in a guy's face and goes ta-da. Um, which like it's skillful when you can make someone laugh with like quite a gruesome murder. Because I laugh almost every single time. But that and like I feel as if this is my biggest issue with the film. It doesn't really fit between the first and third. Does that make any sense?
What do
Like
you
it does.
mean?
The end of the film does, like the whole like idea that like Joker has pretty much destroyed Batman's everything and brought him to the bottom, and
Mhm.
thus the Dark Knight must rise. But I'm like, at the same time, there feels like if you take this film out and have it completely separate from the other two films, one, it doesn't affect that film at all. But two, it also
Mm.
doesn't affect the other two.
No, I don't.
Because the
I
third film
mean,
almost feels like more of a sequel to the first and not the second.
yeah, a lot of the stuff that's brought up in the third film is stuff that's from the first film.
Which you do see happen quite a bit. I mean, it's the same issue in Cars 2. So if you're familiar with the Cars trilogy, pretty much the first film is all about like being the rookie around the tracks and learning to slow down a little bit. And then the second film just fucking takes place somewhere else. And the third film
It's a
sort of
fucking
comes back
spy
to
thriller. It's a
yeah,
spy
and the
film, the
third
second
film
one.
comes back to Radiator Springs. The
Mm.
the Dark Knight is quite similar. The trilogy is quite similar, except for the fact that the Dark Knight, I'd say, is a little bit better than Cars 2.
I mean,
Yeah,
what is a
that's
trilogy where, like, I guess Kung Fu Panda is a trilogy where each of the films sort of follow on from each other. You can't really separate them. Like, because I haven't seen Kung Fu Panda in ages, but from my memory, those films are very much connected. Whereas I've watched The Dark Knight by itself so many more times than I've watched the other two films in the
Okay, yeah.
trilogy.
Yeah, you don't have
Um,
to watch the other two. No, it's like the
whereas
Dark
I
Knight
feel like
trilogy is like it's the Dark Knight and then other two movies.
other trilogies, you can't really watch the sequels without watching the first one. You sort of have to watch them all together as one
Yeah.
package, you know.
Well, I can do it with Spider Man. The Sam Raimi Spider Man. I can watch Spider Man 2
Yeah,
without watching
I
the
think
first Spider Man.
Spider-Man relatively works.
But
Um,
that's why these two are always up for comparison of the greatest like s- comic book trilogy because they
yeah,
stand on their own as films as well, and they don't hinge on some big multiversal war to keep them relevant. They're just good films that also feature comic book characters. But
yeah.
yeah, I think
I
more of
mean,
the
I
grit
prefer
and
the Raimi
critique.
trilogy.
Oh yeah, 100%. But I think more of the more grit of my critique and the bulk of it comes with the third film in the trilogy. The second film you can't say
Hmm.
much other than like set pieces are great. Like
Oh,
man,
yeah. There's so many
the
great
Tumblr is
sequences.
awesome. The idea that like you
Mhm.
introduce a new suit without having to do the whole he has a new suit like out of nowhere. It's like no, they naturally
Yeah,
introduce the idea of a new suit, which I
yeah. Because
quite
he can't
enjoy.
bloody turn his head.
Yeah,
He has to turn like this.
which I
So
always
it
thought
must
was
be.
funny.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. I think there's a lot of really great stuff. The film is too long. I'd say. It goes on for a bit, and there's just certain scenes that just I feel like you could probably do without. I feel like it takes a while to get to the point. Although I remember watching and I just checked the time to see how much longer I left. I was like, oh, we're close to done. I was
Yeah,
surprised. But yeah, anything without Heath Ledger is kind of not necessary to me, to my enjoyment. I don't care. I love the scene where they flip like the big truck over in the city. Like that's great, and he's like, "Come on, hit me, come on, hit me." You know, he's doing that.
yeah,
I think that's so great. And the interrogate, all the stuff in the prison with the interrogation, fantastic. After that, it kind of loses steam a little bit, though.
yeah. I agree wholeheartedly. I think even from a narrative perspective, the narrative hinged so much on Heath Ledger's Joker, which, like, I get is the main antagonist. But you should
Yeah.
have provided your protagonist with enough depth to be able to carry at least like 10 minutes of the fucking film, which I like that's my biggest beef, and that's why I don't think it's a 10. If they like they
Hmm.
hit it was the set pieces, the villains is great. Batman though, like how is he the worst part of his own film? That
I
like
mean,
and
that's
it's not
pretty
he's not
consistent with
bad.
most Batman films. Yeah,
And he's not bad.
he's
He's
uninteresting.
great, just not nearly as great as everyone else. And he's never on
Yeah.
everyone like he's never on the same level as all other aspects of what goes into that film, whether it's the like narrative aspects, but also the
Hmm.
straight up just like his suit's great. Like how for me, when I watch the film, I don't go, oh, Batman is so cool. I go, man, Batman's suit is cool.
It is a very nice suit, to be fair. It's probably
And
my
this isn't
favorite, like, yeah, Batman suit.
and this isn't to discredit Christian Bale either, because I think he does a fucking great job. I just think it's a bit
Mm.
of a cardboard cutout of a character in general. Like it's quite hard, I think,
Hmm.
to write a lot of depth for a character that never like that has depth, but it's just much more sort of psychological, which I know that Robert Pattinson's Batman does
Hmm.
focus
Yeah.
on and draw from, and that's why it has such rave reviews. But
Yeah, I think
yeah,
there's a way to do that, though, and make it work.
yeah, and I think they
Uh,
touch on it. They touch on it in the third film, but they just it's not finger licking good, man. It's only good. Like I have the
yeah.
flavoring on my fingers, and I'll maybe lick one finger and then wipe the rest off. You know?
That's it. Interesting. analogy. Yeah, I think we haven't really touched on any of the other actors, but I mean, like Aaron Eckhart as Two-Face, I think he's quite. I used to, for the longest time, I used to think it was Neil Patrick Harris. I always got them two, the Aaron Eckhart and Neil Patrick Harris confused. I think Aaron Eckhart is a very underrated actor, though. I think he's a very solid actor. I find him less interesting when he becomes the villain though, and he's just like, "Oh, I fought the
Yeah.
god." I don't like that. That's kind of that loses
I
the
like the
depth. I
whole
feel
idea
like
of him being like, I like the whole idea of him saying, "Oh, I'm Batman. I'm the Batman," and like,
I
I
really
like
like
that.
that. Yeah, yeah.
That's
But
the
we
most
don't.
depth Batman as a character gets in this fucking film.
It's fucking truth. It's fucking Harvey Dent who gives him that depth. Yeah. Um. I mean, yeah. It's just it. But I think it's a very great film. I do not think though it is currently the third highest rated film on IMDb, which is
Ever.
ridiculous. Yeah, it's just behind The Godfather and The Shawshank Redemption. So, like it's the
I don't know.
IMDb top 10,
You
like
cannot see my
the 10
face, but
the
what?
10
Like,
highest rated films on IMDb right now are The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly,
yep,
The Fellowship of the Ring,
yep,
Pulp Fiction, The
yep.
Return of the King, Schindler's List, 12 Angry Men, The Godfather Part 2, The Dark Knight, The Godfather, and The Shawshank Redemption.
And these are
What
public,
a...
and this is calculated from public's reviews.
Yeah, this is just everybody who has rated these films on IMDb. They add all their scores up and then find the average. So the Shawshank
IMDb
Redemption...
is so has the worst fan base.
I think most review sites do, but IMDb's a bit dumb. I mean, Forrest Gump's number 11. That's pretty good. That's
Yeah,
pretty
but
good.
like two of the Lord of the Rings films, yeah, they're beautiful and they're great. But top
That
10
yeah,
ever,
yeah.
ever?
I
What?
mean, Inception is number
Wild.
15 on the list, which is
That's
I would
wild
also
to me.
argue too.
Inception's
That's too low. Oh, Interstellar's 26th
that's also
on the
too low.
list. The Prestige is 42. I'm just looking for the Nolan films on here. Memento is 55.
That is criminally low.
That is
That
very
is.
low for Memento. That is way too low.
Can you just see
And
where
that's
Bullet
lower
Train
than
is?
films. Bullet Train is not charted. I wonder what
Oh
Bullet Train's
my.
IMDb score actually is though.
It's probably
Bullet
like
Train
7.
has got a 7.3. That's pretty good actually.
Yeah, for a little
Across
spoof film, that's not bad.
369,000 ratings. That's pretty good. But yeah, Dark Knight, it's not the third greatest film of all time. Let's just be honest, it's not. It's
No.
a great film. I think it's great. I give it a 9 out of 10, but it's not a film I would even come close to saying is the best film ever made because it's not. It's just not.
Yeah, no. I don't even know if it's on that list. Like, to be honest. Um, like that sounds wild, but I think I talked my like I quite liked it. I remember watching it, but I think just this evening I've talked myself into giving it an 8.5. Like I was like, I come into this with thinking, yeah, it's like a 9, maybe like,
Were you
and
gonna?
yeah, but I feel like I just talked myself into lowering it. But the more you know, I mean, I just didn't like. There's going to be people who go, "How can you say that is the greatest superhero film ever?" And I'm like, "Well, it's not a fucking superhero film. It's a
Look,
guy in a suit." But
I think yeah, Nolan fans are weird to me. Like, cause they think they're like, oh, his films are so good. Like, yeah, Christopher Nolan, Inception. That's what we're talking about now.
fucking loved it. I thought it was oh it was so good.
Yeah. I remember this was another one of those films I watched when I was more into. I think I watched this during like when COVID was a thing, was a bigger thing, and we had to, be shut off from the rest of the world and from other people. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's like one of the greatest films of all time. Let's want to make that clear. I knew someone at high school who said it was their favorite film. I said, "You've got boring taste, my friend." and you're wrong because it's not even the best Nolan film. It's like the fourth best Nolan film. So just want to make that clear. Harry's looking down. I think Harry may disagree with me on that one.
I don't exactly disagree. Me saying I loved it doesn't mean I think it's his best film. I
Mm-hmm.
just enjoy the idea. Like as someone
Mm.
again who's a viewer of like as someone who sits here and quite focuses on the narrative and the ideas within that. It's so
Mm-hmm.
like it's just like a cool idea. It feels like a dream within a dream within a dream. It's like so cool to focus on the idea of
Mm-hmm.
dreams and the idea like also I'm sort of a sucker for Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I do have my favorite actors, Tom
Mm.
Hardy. I just think that this I also really like Leo's performance. Leo always does well in a film where the mother of his children is mentally fucked.
What a
Don't
Shutter
you notice
Island.
that?
Yeah, Shutter
A little bit of
Island's
Shutter
one of
Island,
them.
yeah. Whereas like and that being said, it was also sort of like my least favorite part of the film. My least favorite part of the film is that
Mm.
whole Leo subplot. Or
Yeah, I
not
don't
yeah,
really need it.
that was the whole thing. It's like, no, just give me like a cool reverse heist. Because it's like a heist, but it's not a heist.
Yeah,
They're just like the whole
I think
point of
that
it
would
is
have been
to make it
fine. Yeah.
look like a heist. And like, oh,
Mm.
dealing with the trials and
Yeah.
tribulations of like timing and how do you make them feel gravity when there's no gravity? And
Yeah, I don't need
like
that.
I liked that.
I th- No, I no, sorry, I meant I don't like the wife stuff. I don't need
Yeah.
that at all. I just kind of wish it was a heist, in people's rooms. I thought that's all I needed really. But yeah, a big ensemble cast. We've got Leonardo DiCaprio. I don't think I've ever covered Leo on this podcast.
You should. I think he's
I don't
like
think I
I,
have. I'm
I
trying to
find
think.
I find I quite like a lot of his films, but I never think about him being one of the all-time, like having one of the all-time catalogs. But I'm always like,
Hmm.
yeah, I really like Catch Me If You Can, and I really liked like
I'm trying to think. I don't think
a
I
bunch
have.
Shutter
And I don't think I've
Island.
mentioned
And
Silent. I think he might be my favorite actor. It's like him or Nicolas Cage for
guess
for the top spot for my
guess who
favorite
mine
actor.
is?
Is it Matt Damon?
No, but he's one of them. It's Jim Carrey, but
Of Jim Carrey. Oh, of course, that makes so much. Of course, it's Jim Carrey. To be fair, Jim Carrey's fucking great. You can't really dislike Jim Carrey. So yeah, Leonardo DiCaprio. I mean, yeah, favorite to second favorite actor. I think he's great in general. I don't think he's amazing in this, but I think he gives a very good performance. I think all the cast are very solid. I think Elliot Page, then Ellen Page at the time, but Elliot Page now, he uh is good in it. I like Elliot Page, but Elliot Page, I think he's very good at what
that's
he
crazy.
does.
I had no idea he transitioned. Like, I'll
Yeah, it
be
was like
frank.
a
I
couple
to
years
be
ago.
frankly, I only ever knew them from Juno.
Yeah. Yeah, they transition December 2020, so a couple years now, but
Oh, good.
um
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, we got Killian Murphy, our boy in there. Love Killian Murphy as we were touching on before. I think he's actually probably one of the best parts of it in terms of performances. Um yeah,
Yeah.
Tom yeah, I got Killian Murphy. I got Tom Hardy. I think this was one of the earliest like major Tom Hardy performances. Like I
How
think
can you not?
he done, but I think he works here. I don't think I need him to be like a lead performance. I just need him to be like a fun supporting role, and he's usually good at that. That's just what I need him. I don't really think he works as like the main protagonist. Really, I need him to just or like I think he's fine as just a supporting part. Well, I haven't seen Bronson, and I've heard he's really great in that. So you're a big Tom Hardy fan, as
I'm a
you've been
huge Tom
alluding to.
Hardy fan. I really enjoy. I'm a big Peaky Blinders guy. I think Inception does that really well too. Like it really,
Mm.
from the second I started, I was like, oh, I'm in this. Like, because you
Yeah.
find a
Oh
lot of
yeah, the
films that might
openings,
take
like
like, yeah,
yeah,
the opening's the end of the film, which is
yeah, classic
like,
Nolan messing with
yeah,
time.
he's never done that. So when was the last time Nolan opened with the end of the film? Um, but yeah,
Yeah,
I thought it was quite good. I
yeah,
I did know some tropes like, I'd never seen it, but the Simpsons did an Inception episode, which
yeah.
was
Rick and
like
Morty
actually
did
quite,
well.
did Rick and Morty do? Oh yeah, they did. But
Yeah,
I don't know. I knew about the whole spinning top thing, which I think is a really good like sort of bait
yeah,
out. Because at the end of the film, it does look like it's gonna fall, and then the film just cuts.
yeah,
So it's like left up to the viewer on which do they want to believe that this is his reality, or do they
yeah.
want to? Which I think is such like a high level concept, and as someone who again loves the ideas in films, this the
Hmm.
it really like allows the sort of viewer to create their own version of events, and it's not particularly
Yeah,
dense. Like it's quite linear. We can follow it quite well. Like
yeah,
I follow the film quite easily when I'm watching it. I'm like, man, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Like, okay, so this is the time like that's going on. I think again, Cillian Murphy is someone who isn't even playing second or third fiddle. He's like fifth fiddle in this fucking movie. Gives a very,
yeah.
very surprisingly like great performance
He's
that is
kind
like
of the
holds a lot of
big.
emotion.
He's kind of the core of the film. I feel like in terms of the characters.
Oh no,
Like
he's
I feel
quite
like
important, but I feel like he just like he's not part of the crew. Does that make sense?
yeah, I was like, he's never the part that anybody pulls out. I was like, oh, Tom Hardy's in it, Elliot Page is in it, Leonardo DiCaprio, Joseph Gordon-Levitt even, and I don't even think Joseph Gordon-Levitt's that big a
Michael
part. Is it
Caine.
Marion Cotillard, who is DiCaprio's wife? Um, yeah, I think this film really has a lot of great stuff going on. I don't think it's as clever as some people think it is. Because I've seen a lot of stuff where people are like, oh my god, it's so brilliant and it's so hard to follow. I'm like, is it? Like, is
Yeah,
it really that difficult? It's pretty simple.
they're in a
It's like,
dream, and
oh,
then
they
they
go
in
in
a
a dream,
dream, and then
and
they in
then
a
they go in
dream,
another dream. Yeah,
and then he
I just
goes into
like,
one last dream into the limbo world, and then they all come back out.
mm,
Because like all you got to remember is the real world. From what we know, the real world is at the plane. Yeah,
basically.
okay. The real world's the plane. He spins the thing before he hops on the plane. Real world's the plane. So when they all wake up on the plane, you're somewhat safe as a viewer. Again, with Nolan, you're never safe. My whole idea is that when the plane comes back in and we see them wake up on the plane, the
Mm,
viewer is like somewhat safe to believe that that's the reality. And it's quite easy to follow. It goes plane, van, plane, van, elevator, so like hotel,
mm-hmm,
then snow-capped mountains, then
mm-hmm.
what was after the snow-capped mountain? The dream world limbo that he'd built for himself.
Yeah, the limbo world.
Leo
Yeah.
Limbo. Leo Limbo. I also like how he messes with time a lot in this film. The idea that like
Mm.
5 minutes here is an hour there is quite cool. Which like yeah, Nolan's never messed with time. I wonder if he'll do that with any films upcoming either. I
Mm.
guess we'll have to wait and
I mean,
see.
there's yeah, sort of there were two scenes I was aware of in this film before I seen it. One is like the end with the spinning top, and the other is with the spinning hallway, like the hallway fight sequence with Joseph Gordon-Levitt and that other guy, which is, to be fair, an incredible scene.
It looks
Like,
awesome.
and because as is generally standard for Nolan, he just did that for real, just had a full set, and I mean, it's just a fantastic sequence, and I appreciate that Nolan is just willing to uh do stuff like that and is just building practical sets and having practical stunt work. Like
Oh,
I'm a big
100%.
fan of that kind of thing. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, he crashed a plane for real in Tenet. You know, he well, he had an actual explosion go off to simulate the atomic bomb in Oppenheimer. I would assume not a real nuclear bomb because that just seems ridiculous. But he did it for real, so I'm looking forward to seeing how that looks.
Bit of a
Because
realist, this guy.
yeah, which is weird because he often operates within sci-fi stories generally.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like this film, like, there's no performance besides, I guess, Killian's that particularly, like, pierces through. They're all sort of great. When you have such a great, like, cast list, it's so
Yeah,
difficult to pinpoint a performance that is particularly, like, that really stands above the rest. And again, as I
yeah,
said,
you get out the
Leo's
ensemble.
always great. But I thought Killian was a real shining star for me. And
Mm,
again, we get all the classics. We get all the classic Nolan actors. He definitely has his favorites. This is the first Nolan film
yeah,
with Leo, I think. Yeah, he does use Tom Hardy, and again, like Kelly and Joseph. Yeah, I guess from a filmmaking perspective as well, it looks really cool. The whole when they're talking about like creating or being an architect for a dream, such a cool
mm,
fucking sentence to just say. But not just that, it's like the whole sequence of them like walking on the streets and it flipping and stuff is so cool. For me, the movie falls a little bit in the logic of like how they die in the dream. I'm like, so if they die, they wake up, but
yeah,
if they're very much asleep, they die, they go in a limbo.
yeah.
And
I
it's
think it
like,
depends
but
how
why?
deeper they go into the like inception, as it were.
Yeah. Well, so it's like the deeper they go into the dreams, the higher the risk, which I get. But they
Mm,
explained it by just saying, no, if we die now, we go into limbo because the sedative is really strong. And I'm like, that's kind of a shit reason. That felt like I get that that's the reason, but in my head I was like, for a movie that is like such high thought as this, and for that to be quite a critical sort of idea within the film, I feel like it
mhm,
could have maybe been a better way to put it. Like there
mhm,
should have, I felt like there should have been a better reason than that. But other than that, I really had no gripes. I thought it was a perfectly solid film. Really enjoyed
mm.
watching it. One of Nolan's better, but I don't think it's his best.
No.
I think that's
I
still
think
led up to debate as well.
yeah. I mean, there's a lot to love in this film. Like as you mentioned before, the scene where DiCaprio and Paige's character is like, make a maze that I can't solve, basically, mate. And then
Yeah,
she does like a circle, mate. Like that's great. And the visual effects, like the world's like tilting on it, like folding in on itself, phenomenal. Holds up
yeah.
remarkably well. Um, we haven't even really touched on the music
Oh
in
yeah, the
these
score's
films. I think
great.
yeah, the score in Inception and The Dark Knight in particular is fantastic. There's the and
Yeah,
there's that sort of piece they have when they're in the dream world, that sort of classical piece.
I like
I
the
forget the name of.
long French rayon, long
Yeah, that
Sean
piece.
Brennan rayon. Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's great. I think that's a great piece. Yeah, I mean, look, Inception. Like The Dark Knight. It is an overrated film, but it's still a great film that I really really like. I also give it a 9 out of 10. I think it's fantastic.
it's a 9. It's a 9. It's better than the other two.
Oh, all right. I think it's weaker
Uh I think
than the other
it's
two.
uh, eh, let me think. I think it's a 9, but I think the Prestige is also a 9.
So they're like this. They're like on the same level. Like so
Oh,
far.
but I think they're all sort of similar. I'm just gonna put it in 8.5. I really liked it, but I've already put the other two at an 8.5. So for me,
Hmm.
they're all sort of that 8.5 range.
And then yeah, we move on for the final film of this part, The Dark Knight Rises. I do not like this film. I think this is not good. I think this is the worst Christopher Nolan film.
You think this is his worst film?
Yes, I have not seen Dunkirk yet, and I haven't had a chance to watch Insomnia, but I think this is his worst film. I think it's not good at all.
Yeah, see, I disagree.
Okay.
I haven't seen The Following, but I've heard that
Mm.
like a lot of people put that as his worst. Not saying it's like bad, but it's just not like his best. I don't know. I liked it. I quite liked it as a sequel to the first, not as a sequel to the second, but as a sequel to the first Batman. I thought it was okay. I thought like the whole idea of him literally having to rise out of the pit is quite cool. Again, we get to go back to the training, the whole Liam Neeson area of the map. We get Anne Hathaway's Catwoman. We get that whole like, it's giving a boy a jacket after his parents died line, which I think is like a cool way to put it. We get a little bit of Cillian Murphy. We get that whole like
do like
bait.
Cillian Murphy in this, to be fair.
Yeah. Well, we get the whole bait of Joseph Gordon-Levitt being Robin, which I'm like, really? He's like 40.
Yeah, he's not particularly. Robin's typically like a kid.
Yeah, but he was supposed to be like, because the whole film is like Batman giving. Well, one, it's in this film that I'm pretty sure it's in this film that, and we'll touch on Bane because I feel like he has the most to talk about. But
I do not like Bane in this at all. I think Bane is terrible.
We'll get to it. We'll get to it.
Okay.
I think the Joseph Gordon-Levitt, like if you watch the film, they definitely do hint the whole time, like Bruce Wayne's constantly giving him tips. Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character instantly figured out that he was Batman, like straight away.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that, to be fair.
Oh, I mean, no, that's the only bit of the films that make real sense to me, because like everyone should know who it is. Like it's so crazy to me that people like think about it.
I mean, why is Bruce Wayne building this like intricate system underneath his mansion?
And why did the Batmobile just leave Wayne Manor? What's going on? Like fucking hell.
Man, who's rich enough to build all this tech?
Yeah.
Can't be Bruce Wayne.
Is it weird that Bruce Wayne just left the event and then Batman came in like a minute later?
Yeah, it's so strange, man. There's no connection.
Why have I never seen them together? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Clark Kent and Superman. So, which is even better. Just puts on glasses.
Yeah, and he's like disguise. But yeah, I think I enjoyed it. My favorite part of the film was Bane. So we're gonna have a bit of a convo about this one. But I thought Tom Hardy did a really, 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 really great job. Bro, how can you not like you merely adopted the dark. I was born in it, molded by it. Like that's such a cool fucking scene.
I think part of my thing with this is I've seen the Harley Quinn animated TV show where Bane is like a joke in it, and he sounds like he's like, "Oh, Batman, oh no, I lost my chicken satay sandwich," or whatever, you know, and he's, and I think I don't find Bane intimidating, and I'm supposed to, and the way he delivers lines is very, very strange.
I feel like Bane should have sounded more like Venom. Don't get me wrong. I would have liked if Eddie did his if Tom Hardy did his Eddie Brock like Venom, where he went, if he was like Batman, I'm coming to get you.
Yeah, like that would work more than just using Bane.
My leg.
I'm here to fulfill Ra's al Ghul's destiny. Like just the way he delivers lines just sounds very, very. It doesn't work, and he's not a particularly imposing figure. Like, I feel like Bane is meant to be this, like, he doesn't look particularly, like, ripped or anything. And I know it's meant
What?
to take less with it.
What are you talking about? Just search a Bane. Just do it. Search Bane.
Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah, that is like you have to give props to Tom Hardy's like workout for this. He looks bloody. No, he's not supposed. Bane's not supposed to be shredded. He's just supposed to be raw strength. Like, and that's what he looks like.
It didn't work
Fuck, I think it does.
for
I
me.
really
I
like
mean,
his
the
Bane.
main antagonist.
I like his mask too, like his respirator.
I don't mind that. I think that's a decent way to be like, oh well, it needs to be kind of realistic because we can't have him just be injected with like venom or whatever it is from the comics.
I like how he's also like without the fucking suit, as big as Batman is in the suit. Like that's what I like. He seems
Yeah.
like a 1-to-1 match. Like it's which I think is important, but I don't know. I think otherwise it's I liked him. I thought he did a really great performance. I thought he was better than Scarecrow in the first movie.
I mean, yeah. What else do I like about this film? It's too long.
Oh yeah, it's too long.
There's a lot you could probably cut out and it would be fine. I always complain about film length, but it's just because films in general are too long. I'm just being honest. I find most films are way too long, and you can cut out stuff. And I think this is and I think Nolan was not as invested in this because I think Heath Ledger dying sort of soured his whole uh perspective on doing Batman, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like this film, like it's okay. I didn't like the tease that the Robin tease in it, but otherwise,
You know
I
what?
think it caps off the
My
trilogy just fine.
my biggest problem with this film is they don't kill Batman. I
Yeah,
think Bruce Wayne should have died at the end. I think
yeah.
that would have been a a perfect ending.
No,
Like,
I like him getting with Anne Hathaway though.
doesn't make any sense though, does it?
No, it
Doesn't really make
does.
any.
They're very similar characters. They just both want to leave the past behind and move forward
No, it
together.
doesn't
That's
make any sense that he lives. I feel like
what do you
just
mean?
the way. I mean, well, because I mean he does fix like the autopilot or whatever it is, right? And it flies or something, right? Am I just misremembering?
Some finicky thing, but I think from a narrative, like literally, if you want to talk about literally the way that he lives, I don't know. I watched it at the start of the week. I couldn't tell you. It's something to do with autopilot though. Well, anyway, he creates like a. I think from a narrative perspective, sorry, it's fine that he lives and continues on. Like to me, I have no issue with him living.
I just
Um,
think it would have been a nice way to cap off the trilogy. I feel like, but you know, there's a lot of other problems I have with the film anyway. So it's not like it's the only thing holding it back. There's a lot of other stuff I'm not
yeah,
a fan of. I think this is when Hans Zimmer's music started to become very samey and not as good.
yeah,
Like he did Inception a couple years before. He did Kung Fu Panda like 4 years before, and the Kung Fu Panda music is a banger. Like there are
yeah.
like in 4 years, I feel like he's just not been as good. Like post Dark Knight Rises, Hans Zimmer's just doing the same stuff over and over again, and it's not as good. And I'm not a big fan of it, to be honest.
Yeah. No, I agree. I feel as if it just sort of feels a bit like yeah, just a little lazy, complacent.
Yeah, that's. I think that. Yeah, and I just feel like I just don't. Also, the sound mix. I don't know if because Nolan's had a lot of criticisms directed at his sound mixing and his sound design. I think watching it at home, I was less bothered by it, but I feel like if I saw this in a cinema, I'd be more bothered. I had that with Tenet, which we'll get to next week, but the sound design in some of his films is very, very strange, and takes away from his films often.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't have much more to say on Batman. I think
Not what to say
it's a
either. I'm just
period in Nolan's filmography that I feel like is quite an important one, but is not a great judgment on his like
mm,
ability.
I feel like post Inception, his career's sort of been in a bit of a decline. Not to say I think his recent films are bad. I just think they're not as good post The Dark Knight
Yeah,
Rises. But we'll find
yeah.
out next week. When we'll
I give it a
discuss them.
7.
Yeah, I give it a 5. I'm not overly into it.
Yeah,
I had it as a 6 actually, but I bumped it down to a 5. It just bothered me too much, and I just had a lot of problems with it. And unlike The Dark Knight, where I could kind of ignore most of my problems with The Dark Knight, I couldn't with Dark Knight Rises, and I feel like the film suffers from that. But yeah, that's pretty much how I feel about it. And so, thank you all for joining us for the second part of Christopher Nolan's filmography. Go back, listen to the first one. Next week we'll be looking at Interstellar, Dunkirk, and Tenet. I've not seen Dunkirk yet, and I will also, if I have the time, I will watch Insomnia. So I'll have seen all of Christopher Nolan's films for next week's episode. Yeah, thank you for joining me, Harry, for this one.
no problem. I'm keen for the next one.
Yeah, so thank you all for listening, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.